Welcome back to Around the League, where we look at multiple issues, not just dealing with the Philadelphia Eagles, my favorite team and only team, because I'm not new that Homer, bullshit with Florida or picking two. Nah, it's only one, and room in my heart for one only. Like I said, we're looking at Philadelphia Eagles, but also different franchises, and it's funny because when our powers combine. They are the Underwear Olympics. That's where the league will be assembling I can't say that shit, can I? In Indianapolis this week and going into next week for the NFL Combine. But, we'll look at some myriad of issues. And, I am an Eagles fan, so it's only fair to start off with Howie Roseman on the tush push. The legal play, it was instated in 2005, so it is a legal play where, players can push, a player forward. And his comment on it, it's illegal and it works. So why do you guys want to penalize us for using it, employing it? And defensive coordinators, of course, across the league are complaining about it and, because they can't stop it. And, the league, I previously addressed this in another video, but stating that it doesn't show off the athleticism of our players in our league, and it's, amounts to basically a rugby scrum. Who gives a fuck? You instated it as a legal play, and it should stand as such. If every team is going to copy it and, try to employ it, which they probably will if it stands, you're going to have to, evolve. That's what the league is about, evolving. The Hail Mary down the field offense evolved from defenses being able to just stifle offenses at the line of scrimmage. So they thought of an idea to air it out. And defenses had to adjust and they mentioned different coverages, cover 3, cover 4, employing a mix of man and zone coverages. You guys evolved to be able to stop that. You didn't just make it illegal to throw downfield, a certain number of yards. So, this is another thing, whatever, they decide to ban it or to keep it, we'll just have to roll the punches. That's what Nick Sirianni said. We'll just have to, adjust. I'm for it because, it works for us. 92%, success rate with Jalen Hurts running it. Hey, okay, I'm an Eagles fan. Color me biased, but, you don't like it, someone famously said, then stop it. Next, the 49ers, they're in a pinch. John Lynch, GM for the 49ers, said they may have to look at the QB market. And this is because Jimmy Garoppolo, their starter going into the season, was knocked out with a wrist injury. Forgetting, it was a long season. But then, first they lost Trey Lance. Sorry, Trey Lance was their starter. He went out with an ankle injury. Then they lost Jimmy Garoppolo with a wrist injury. And then we knocked out in third and fourth quarterbacks. Goddamn. One Brock Purdy, rookie from Iowa State, 7th round pick with an Tommy John's surgery, needing elbow injury. And Josh Johnson, we made him hit his head on the concrete, basically concrete out there, because that field is hard in the winter. And he had a concussion. He could, he was no longer eligible to play. So they're gonna need somebody. Josh Johnson will be back. He's a journeyman. Garoppolo is assumed to be moving on to greener pastures, and Trey Lance is, he's a third year, I think, in a quarterback, but got knocked out the first or second game, so he hasn't really had a lot of starting experience. So they need someone with experience coming in. Purdy also, he played very well, all things considered, but he is coming off of that elbow surgery and don't know when he's scheduled. It could be a 6-month to 12-month. 12-month is kind of like the long, the slowest prognosis, but more realistically, probably looking at 6 to 9 months. So, and he hasn't had surgery yet because the swelling hasn't gone down. So, that throws them into chaos at the QB position there. So, trying to, put their hooks into somebody that, can be stable and buy them some time, or, be a competent starter just for this year. In the case of, Trey Lance faltering and Purdy not being able to be there to catch, the 49ers when they fall. But yeah, interesting for them. Sucks to be you guys. Whatever. It ain't me. It ain't me. Me and my guys. All right. Next up, we're looking at the Eagles. Brian Johnson, the new offensive coordinator for the Eagles, elevated from QB coach, and Sean Desai coming over from the Seattle Seahawks staff as assistant head coach and passing game coordinator. He is signed on as our D coordinator. They officially joined the staff, so they made announcements. They wanted to do them both at the same time. All two of y'all's, and I'm excited for Brian Johnson because he was a former quarterback out of Utah and played in the league 10 or so years, something like that. And smart guy, very fastidious, and very accountable, responsible. And I think he's going to take the offense up a notch. Could take them up to the next level. And the way he sees the game, the way he is creative and calls plays for Jalen Hurts. They had a good relationship, and he's just the guy that he needs to challenge him, to push him, to put more on his plate. And I hope that they really evolve that offense. So we'll see what he has in store. But I really think he's going to be great for Hurts' development and really, be a brain fest, a brainstorming fest. Yeah, good for his development, in that offense and what they employ, and hopefully what they add on to it. And Sean Desai, I'm lukewarm on that one because I don't believe that. I believe he's more in the vein of Jonathan Gannon because they both learned from that Vic Fangio tree, and I'm not a fan of his defense from what I've seen from his disciples. But Vic Fangio, I have to look at his defense firsthand to see how he employed it, how his blitz rate was, and what coverages he mainly stuck with. But from the 2 weeks that he coached up our defense, or I heard it was our offense, to try to to deal with the Chiefs offense, but or try to deal with the Chiefs would try to do on defense. Sorry, I'm not convinced that Sean Desai is going to be any different, just more of the same. Who actually blitzes less than Jonathan Gannon did. So I'm going to be on it all season, nitpicking any mistakes he makes, calling the game, not blitzing, coverages, not employing the right look for our guys and their skill sets. Just going to be on him. So we'll see how that that plays out. But I'm not optimistic. I'm on record, and I'll say that if he proves me wrong, I'd rather be proven wrong and be holding the Lombardi at the end of the season than to go in optimistic with fool's gold. He has to show that he can one, make adjustments like Gannon didn't do, and really be able to to not just show the same vanilla looks over and over, and let the offense become familiar with you, so they can just know where you are. Take a snapshot pre-snap, know where you are, and know that you're not going to be where they don't expect you. Predictable is the worst thing you can be on defense, unless you're just great at a scheme like the Seattle Seahawks. When they had the Legion of Boom, you knew what they were going to employ. You just couldn't stop them from stopping you, because they knew what their strengths were, and they played to them perfectly to a T. Everybody in that defense on that back end knew their responsibilities, and they played to them in sync with that front with that front seven. So you have somebody also, a quarterback on your defense like Bobby Wagner controlling that front. Just Michael Bennett in the front with Cliff Averill. It just was a perfect storm for those guys. So we don't have that, but I'd love to see how their blitz rate was with Seattle, with him being the pass game coordinator. But that's beside the point. We'll have to see how he does. But I'm not optimistic. I'm not holding my breath. And like I said, we'll get what we get. We could have had another guy, Vance Joseph, better blitz rate. It's not all about the blitz, but it's about the looks you employ as well. So that's water under the bridge, because he's back in Denver as their D coordinator, and we'll see how the Sean Desai era goes on defense. But hey, we'll see. All right, another breaking news here. the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are set to release Leonard Fournette. He came to them via trade from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he started for them for 3 seasons. Had some ups and downs, but found some consistency when they won that Super Bowl. But last year was out of sorts. Looked slow. Low average, and just didn't look as explosive as previous years, and just look discombobulated. So they're gonna release him, and thank him for his services, but he could be an option as a power back, here in Philly, but I don't want him. I don't want anybody that's used goods. I don't even want to trade for anybody like Dalvin Cook. I don't want to trade for him. Like, why trade for somebody that's very similar to Miles Sanders, even if he's a step better or a cut above? I'd rather go the draft route. Derrick Henry the same. He has a 16 million plus cap hit, and he's only good for a year, and you got to re-sign him. Too many headaches, too many problems to deal with there. You don't even have the money to pay him for one, and then he's 29 years old. A lot of tread on those tires. But on to another running back, Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals. The GM says on him, he doesn't know if he'll be back with the team in 2023, and this just continues like the theme. You can see that there's a couple running backs on this list because the league has devalued the position by way of like actions and words and also in action and deed. There's only 2 ways to advance the ball in the league: run or pass. And teams, we're in an era where we're leaning pass heavy, but the run is still a valid way, a good way to keep opponent off balance and to move the ball, to eat up the clock, to gain yards, easy and just and to control the game, especially in game where where you have inclement weather. So it's funny that those guys make up half of the way to 50% of the option to move the ball, but yet they're one of the lowest paid positions in the league. Like, how are they gonna remedy this? I don't know if it's a league problem. It's just a position era problem, but it just can't be helped. Because like, if I was a GM, GM of the Eagles, I would just draft running backs every 4 years and just never give them long-term contracts. The way the league is set up now, like, you just can't afford to put money there. It's not a premium position, and it's easy. It's an easier position to play. Draft a guy, plug and play him. It's easy for him to come in the league and to be have an impact, to be effective. Why would you go and commit unless the guy is generational talent? And then even then, how long before he breaks down? We don't have bell cow backs anymore. Everybody has running back by committee. The era of it's like the era of a dinosaur. Ladainian Tomlinson, Priest Holmes, Jamal Williams. Not Jamal Williams. Jamal. I'm the running back for he was with the Browns and the Ravens. It's crazy, but like I said, it's a foregone era we're living in now. But they don't know if he'll be with the team because he's just his cap number is too high when they sign him to that contract, and there are other places that they could be they could put that money to better use. And this draft has, I think, 20 running backs with at least a third round grade, so that's a starter. Why pay when you can bring in and replace younger, cheaper, and less tread on the tires, fresh, more explosive? It's gonna be a continuing issue. But all right, and the Browns are set to release ex-Ram safety John Johnson. I don't know if he played with them for a year or two. I think maybe just a year. But could be a pickup for the Eagles to look at. He's only 26 or 27, so solid starter there in LA. But we could potentially look at bringing him in to compete, or to compete for the starting job, or to compete just to elevate the cream of the crop to the top. And I'm not opposed to having our backup safety Reed Blankenship start, but you know he had to prove himself, and it would be a bit of a different position. Him playing strong safety over there, hopefully paired up with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who we hopefully signed to a contract extension. We'll see, but you know, I mean, it could be a good piece to bring in to create competition. But you know, if he has a starting chops as well, I think he'd be a good piece. He's a solid guy, better than Epps, I think. So, GM Rand Carthen, the former running back who played for the Florida Gators, said on Ryan Tannehill, he'll be a Titan next year. So this is them, like, basically, I mean, kind of admitting that the number 3, their third round pick from last year, the kid out of Liberty, the quarterback, he isn't really ready. You know, we saw that last year. He wasn't, you know, he never got up to, you know, game speed. Wasn't as effective as Tannehill was in the offense. And, you know, he's a seasoned veteran. But Tannehill's not a game changer. The best I think we've seen the best football we're going to see from him. We saw him help the Titans advance to the AFC Championship game. But I think at best he's just a game manager. And that's not bad. But he has to have so many things in place, like a strong running game, for example, to have him have success. He needs to play off of that. He's not going to solely carry an offense on his shoulders, like Mahomes, like the quarterback and the Bills, Josh Allen, or Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. So I mean, he is what he is. You accept that, and you know, either work with him, put pieces around him to be, you know, for him to be successful, or you move on from him. But I think they're not in a place to move on from him. I think they'll try to maybe, if they can, bring in a guy that, you know, maybe draft a guy. I don't know if they'll draft him high, that can replace him eventually. And he's a good placeholder for the moment. All right, the Browns and the Jets are set to open the preseason with the Hall of Fame game. So both teams will be playing 4 preseason games. But who cares? I just covered that just to cover it. I don't know why, but I know why, but anyways. Kenny Golladay is set to be released by the New York Giants. You know, he's played for them for 2 years. They brought him in on that 4-year, $72 million contract, and he just was a bust for them. I think he just never fit what they wanted, and I mean, it's crazy to me, like, that talent we saw with the Lions, what happened for him not to be able to showcase that there? Last year, he had, I think, 5 or 6 receptions for 81 yards and a TD, and it was in garbage time. The TD scored against Darius Slay. And it's just like, what in the hell happened? This guy was uber talented. Had, I think, a pair of 1,000-yard seasons with the Detroit Lions with Stafford throwing him the ball. Daniel Jones isn't Stafford, but then again, like, he ain't that bad. So, I mean, it's just mystifying, but, you know, a bad contract by the previous GM, David Gettleman, getting that off the books, and I think they'll actually won't lose that much money. So, you know, I mean, I don't know where he'll land, but not hopefully. He ain't coming to the Eagles, man. Don't bring that in. He's a bum, or he paid like a bum. I think actually he could be a decent receiver, but he's got to go back to the drawing board and reinvigorate himself, because that was just shameful. That was stealing money. All right. Seattle Seahawks could possibly draft a QB, despite having Geno Smith there. He had a career year. You know, he's in his 10th year in the league. He finally broke through and showcased, you know, all the talent, you know, he formerly, we always knew that he had, or the league, or some in the league, you know, knew that he had, or believed he had, when he was a second-round pick from for the New York Jets coming into the league. You know, he just came in, a lot of weight and expectations on his shoulders, and you know, he flopped. But you know, that was more about, you know, supporting the coaching staff, and it's rough for quarterbacks coming into this league. They get eaten alive and tossed to the scrap heap, because it's a win now. You know, as a GM, if you get signed on, you might sign, you know, a 4 or 5 year deal, but you're realistically probably only have 2 to 3 years to make shit happen, or you're gonna be out of there. Yeah, you paid the duration of your contract. You know, the pay out the duration of the contract, but you know, as far as like the time, they're not gonna afford you a lot. But you know, Pete Carroll said, you know, he's not opposed to, you know, bringing a young guy. I think that's great, like idea. If you can get someone that in a in a draft, identify. Damn, that's rough, bro. Identify someone that you want to bring in and develop, and you have the luxury of sitting him behind Geno Smith for maybe a year or two, and letting them watch, learn, soak up, and do it the old-fashioned way that it used to be before the league became such a microwave organization with quarterbacks and wanting them to hit the ground freaking running. And with the proliferation of offenses in the college game, results, yeah, they can be effective, but the development to towards a pro style offense, developing those guys, it's really hit a snag, because it's more like those like I almost say gimmicky, but just easier offenses that aren't as complex as the pro game. So it always had a drawback, and now we're really seeing it rear its head in the makeup of the modern NFL. So next, Jets GM says on Zach Wilson, he has a high ceiling. But they're still considering what to do with this quarterback market. So that's kind of a damning indictment on Zach Wilson. Highly drafted quarterback a couple years ago. I want to say 3 years ago. I think maybe the number 2 overall pick, and he just hasn't been entrusted with that offense. That team had a lot of immaturity. Came out, said some things, and showed that he wasn't ready mentally off the field. To take the reins of the offense, nonetheless, to command it. He just showed that he's been very up and down, hot and cold, and he's had some some spots, but he hasn't shown enough. His backup, I think, Mike White, showed in a handful of starts, I think, before he bowed out with injury, he lit up opposing teams with like a couple 300-yard games, maybe a 400-yard game, I think, and just, man, talented guy, as a backup, but he has a ceiling, has a low ceiling. But how are you gonna let the backup come in and outshine you when he has less tools, and he's supposedly the lower-rated player? But it's about so many things. So many things have to come together for a QB for the game to slow down and for them to get a grasp on what they're doing and the concepts and how to practice and how to study in a playbook. That's why they're so down on Kyler Murray, because he's spending more time on Call of Duty and enjoying his freedoms than diving headfirst into the playbook and doing the small things that make you great, committed to that greatness. Not so many rave reviews coming out of that building there in Arizona, and that says a lot, man. Especially when you commit like almost $250 million to a guy. Yeesh. Good luck, Jonathan Gannon. I mean, you, but whatever. Thank you for your contributions for this year. I mean, all things considered, it is what it is. But the last thing we're gonna look at today, Marcus Mariota was released by the Falcons, and man, this is the perfect quarterback to bring in for the Eagles. And I know you might want to have a traditional guy, like more in the mold of Gardner Minshew, to back up Jalen Hurts, just so you can have a different look. Not just so, but so you can have a different look with the backup instead of having an identical quarterback. But just in case, I think it'll be a perfect plan. He's actually a faster quarterback than Jalen Hurts, running like a 4.51 or 4.53. It's somewhere in that range, but just a pretty a speedy guy. But not just because he looks the part. If you go back and look at the 49ers game they played this past season, what he did to that defense when he froze them, running the read option and running like some similar concepts to what we run, it was a perfect snapshot of like a preview for what he would be in this offense. If he was called upon, his number was called upon to come in and do some starting duty. And with Jalen Hurts, he's missed games the past couple of years. You want to have a guy just in case. And what better guy to have than almost a clone physically of him, and a guy that can come in and play at a high clip rate, and you not lose a tremendous amount with him being in there. So I say, Howie, go in and evaluate, leave no stone unturned, but find out who's the best guy to back up Hurts. But that's a big position because just because of the number of games that he might miss, any given year. So I'd seriously take a look at him. Nope, I'm gonna take a look at getting the fuck out of here. But anyways, as always, fly, Eagles fly. I fucked that up. And let's motherfucking go!
Like, comment, share, subscribe if you like.
Thanks for watching. Check me out at Cintron, Cintron Anime, Cintron Life, or Cintron Laughs, or other social media.